Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast, and we are back from a little break that we took last week, and we're here to talk some rugby and other things as well. Thala, I've joined by Shaun and Kooks today. I think just judging from our pre-chat before we started recording, that all three of us are still easing our way back into a rugby schedule after the Rugby World Cup. Kooks, I hear you had a pretty traumatic time with your first rugby match since the World Cup.
Oh man, it was a tough start. I mean, I had to watch the Sharks lose to Zebra on Friday night, so it was a tough reintroduction back into domestic rugby. Oh man, I'm not gonna get myself worked up because I know there's still a long way to go in this competition. But I was really looking forward to a full week of domestic rugby. After the Sharks game, actually, that was the only game I watched this weekend, and I went straight back to the Cricket World Cup.
Fair enough. Look, yeah, if you are the team that gives Zebra their first win in 18 months, yeah, that is pretty traumatic. Shaun, how are you doing? And
Hi.
how's it coming back into the swing of things with the rugby?
Yeah, it's good. Hi, you man. It's been weird. So I didn't watch a lot of rugby this weekend, but at Cooks, I did watch the Sharks game. Um, but yeah, last week I watched quite a bit, and but it was nice, kind of blocking, like kind of stopping a season almost and starting a season, kind of like things are going now. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it was a little mini break. It was amazing, actually. I'm still buzzing from the World Cup. Like I could, Cooks and I are going to start our own separate podcast just where we talk about the 2023 Rugby World Cup. We're going to probably do like a little half an hour. This kind of shit we're thinking about and just talk about it because I could probably talk about it for another year. There's so much I still want to unpack. There's so many games I still want to rewatch and look at things. I want to see where people went wrong. What I do want to do, actually, I was actually going to pop it on the group and I forgot to. But remember before the World Cup, we did a lot of bits and pieces on like best case scenario, worst case scenario for teams and where guys are going to finish and what can we expect and all that sort of jazz. I definitely want to go back and look back and re-listen to those. And then we should probably pull some sound bites out of that and have a little closing off World Cup podcast. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that will be enough closure for me.
Yeah, we can. I mean, I think today we'll start by looking at or reviewing and just thinking about what situations the teams find themselves in post World Cup and to look at where to all of the teams go from here, and then we'll just touch on the URC and just try to acclimatize ourselves to see what's happening on the URC log, and maybe Cooks will jump off for that part of the podcast so that he doesn't have to see where the Sharks are on the URC log. So yeah, Shaun and Cooks, this is actually your idea on the group, which is basically we wanted to look through each of the teams and just go, hey, what's going to happen for these teams going forward? We can start with the world champions, the Springboks. We've seen, well, the last week they had the trophy tour celebrations. Some of the players have come back into domestic rugby with the likes of Pollard and Wiese and Esthuizen back in the Premiership and some back in the French top 14 as well. We know that Jacques Minnaert has joined Leinster. It's pretty much confirmed, or at least it's been heavily rumored that Rassie Erasmus will be the interim head coach for the time being. So, Cooks, I want to start with you. With the Springboks, I mean, there's a few players that are going to be in the other side of 30. We know Dwayne Vermeulen has retired and all that sort of stuff. Where do they go now? Like, what are the next few or what are the things that Rassie, I guess, needs to do as director of rugby / interim head coach for preparing for the next World Cup cycle?
I think we're in a very exciting stage. I think the one thing that we definitely want to do is have any more bus tours in East London. That's for damn sure. That's the only source going back there. Um, but the big one, I think, for me, what makes this one so exciting next year is the fact in 2020 we didn't have the year after the World Cup where we could sort of have a year to blood some youngsters in, tweak a few things in the game plan, sort of figure things out. And I think the Springboks, not saying next year's a free pass. I think they've earned almost a freeish pass to experiment a little bit more. So I'm excited to see how they're going to manage that. I think obviously there are going to be hard decisions, about the guys over 30. I don't see a drastic 6 guys retiring. I won't be. I can see quite a few of the core of this year going through maybe to 2025, and then sort of from there decisions being made of where to go, how many guys sort of will carry on to the next World Cup. I think for me the biggest thing is, this is my hot take, what I would introduce in South African rugby sabbaticals. I would call Sia, Eben, Kitsi, France. I'll call them in my office and say, listen, chaps, enjoy club rugby next year, but you're not wearing it. You're not playing green and gold next year. You're taking the year off. Come back into the year 12 if needs be. But no, Eben, no Sia, no Kitsi for the junior. I know we play Ireland, but for the junior internationals and then for the rugby championship, I think we've got to find ways to rest those guys. I think next year's a possible time, especially if you're thinking of keeping those 5 who could be our call for 2024 for 2027. So yeah, I think for the Boks, obviously it's adding more depth and trying to make and trying to see and start the building blocks of going back to back to back. I think that I see that's a big challenge for them. I think something Rassie would not taking this job if he felt he didn't have much depth to give. I got a feeling that for them the three-peat is never been done before. And Russ is a mad scientist. He's like, I can imagine if I can bring 3 of these things in a row. And I think a lot of these players, the guys that keep them, that will motivate them for another 4 years, possibly.
Yeah, just to go through the squad quickly on who's going to be over 30 by 2027. Malcolm Marx, Bongi Bonambi, Stephen Kitzel, Vincent Koch, Frans. Actually, let's say who won't be over 30. That's probably much easier. Basically, it's you have to go to the back line. It's Jaden Hendricks, it's Damien Willems, it's Kanan Moody, and that's pretty much it in terms of players that won't be over 30. Most of the other players that are in the squad that have been obviously regulars for the last few years are all going to be either in their early to mid or late 30s. So it will be, I think Kooks' idea on a sabbatical might be optimal as well. Shaun, in terms
where's the sweet spot? Sorry, Thala, where's the sweet spot in terms of age?
They say at least the Springboks are pretty much in that sweet spot right now. Like,
yes,
have a lot of people in the sort of like that early 30s. They're still in their peak of the powers, but have enough experience as well. Obviously, they have all the caps in the world. You don't want to age the squad. Like, I think that's kind of what happened to Wales in the last few years, that all these players that pretty much played together from before the 2011 World Cup came to 2021, 2022, and yeah, things just sort of fell off. Obviously, the coaching didn't help as well. But Shaun, I was going to ask you about that coaching situation. Obviously, it sounds like Rassie will continue as head coach pretty much. Is that something that needs to be sorted out? And how do you think he'll go about maybe getting some fresh voices and new blood into that coaching staff?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the last couple of weeks. It's very interesting. Pre-World Cup, when we heard that Jacques Nienaber was going to leave and it looked like Rassie was going to stay on, I was really leaning towards, and I was probably heavily in favor of Mzwandile Stick or Deon Davids. They look like, because the succession planning is what's big for me and what I feel is going to happen. Having said that, I don't know shit about rugby. If we listen to anything that I thought was going to happen pre-World Cup, during World Cup, etc. So the thing is the succession planning was big for us, and I feel that we've missed it, and we're starting to reap the rewards of it. With Rassie Erasmus going back to the head coach space, it's very interesting for me. I've thought about it a lot because something over there is happening, and I don't ever feel that anyone's in the dark in any part of the Springbok setup. I think everyone is. It's clear for everyone to see, and everyone knows what's cracking. So something's going on. Rassie's obviously thought that whoever we want to be setting up to moving forward is not ready yet, or we don't have them in the mix. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And we're going to have to bring a few new people in. I'm a bit apprehensive to think that in 2 years' time, we're going to get a whole brand new head coach, just with seeing what's going on right now, because I'm a bit worried that's going to change everything. It's going to change our defensive foundation. It's going to change our conversations and the language we're speaking and the way we're playing and stuff like that. So I'm really still leaning towards the fact that we probably will have Mzwandile Stick or Dion Davids high up and very close to taking that head coach role, and then people kind of filling in underneath that. That for me would be the succession planning, but then I'm also a little bit more conservative. So I don't see a major change happening. However, we will know soon. Like in I don't even know where we are. I think we're in November. Like, what's it? March, April, February, March. I don't know. We'll know what's happening and who's been brought in. And then we'll have an idea of what's cracking. Like, will Dobbo get a mention and will he get in? I don't see Dobson ever being in the Springbok setup right now as an assistant. I think he'll come in as a head coach. Like, will he come in as part-time to see how the groove works out? Is Johan van Graan in the mix? Is Ackerman still in the mix? Like, we've got a couple of guys that are really doing well, but how do they fit in with everything? Because the one thing I think that we can really build our house on is the fact that we know that they're not going to take anyone that's going to completely disrupt and mess up everything that has happened. They're probably going to need someone that buys into everything that's been going on and how the foundation of the Springboks is at the moment.
So, Kooks, I guess Dobbo 2028 now is your campaign right now.
Yeah, that's my agenda for then. I'm willing to move to the agenda if the Boks is going to keep winning World Cups. That's the only disclaimer for my agenda. So when the Boks go back to back, the fourth World Cup is be Dobbo 2032 at this stage. So, hey, Dobbo, my guy, he's just gonna keep winning URC titles, Thala. That's all he can do, and just hope and wait.
This is my question to both of you, because I don't necessarily have a problem with Dobson or Van Graan or Ackerman or anyone not that's currently in the setup taking over the head coach role. But my question, and I'd like you guys to answer, is how are they going to do it? So let's say hypothetically, we'll go with Dobbo. Let's say Dobbo is the head coach for the next World Cup. How do you see Rassie Erasmus as director of rugby making that happen?
I think for me, if Rassie to make that happen, I think if he feels that he needs to bring sort of a different shift in the camp, a different sort of culture, a different voice to sort of bring into the Springbok environment, I think it's, and in doing so, I think he will. I mean, he'll still play a massive role in it, but I think you'll do it in a way where it's just to hear different voices. Like, I know Eddie Jones, for example, in England, kept changing coaches every 3 years, and was successful. I mean, he was a successful coach, but I mean, he'd love changing the voices. So I think if Rassie had to bring Dobbo, and I do think if Dobbo would want to come in with his own management staff, and that's for me will be the big difference. Or someone like a Johan van Graan, for me, I feel like he'll be a lot more easier to bring into what Rassie's sort of doing. Because obviously, I know he took over from Rassie in Munster, but I do think that he would sort of fit in easier. And I think he's got a little less head coach experience, unlike Dobbo, who Dobbo goes, this is the way I've coached, this is the guys that I've come around with. These are the guys that serve me well, I think, and this is the sort of style that I want to play, and this is the way that I want to play it in. So I think with Dobbo, Rassie will not have as hands-on approach, but I feel like with Johan van Graan, Rassie will play, but will have a lot more, will be a lot more hands-on as opposed to with Dobbo.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it, Kooks. It's going to be difficult to see anyone that hasn't had a previous relationship with Erasmus coming in if they're going to come in as head coach. I think what this appointment for, I mean, Rassie's contract ends in 2025, so there's also that to manage. But yeah, I think if we're going to do 4-year planning, we'll have to sort his situation out and then try to see if he wants to go ahead as head coach, or does he want to give sort of the reins more to a Davids or a Mzwandile Stick, or who's the new person that's going to be brought in? Because it's going to be, I mean, at the best times we've all been in that situation at work when you asked to work with someone. They might be good at their job, they might be horrible at their job, but working with someone, if you don't have that chemistry, is always difficult. So I think it probably points to that whoever comes in, or whoever's the head coach after 2025, it depends on whether Rassie is still with the Springboks until 2027, or has he maybe left and now it's the opportunity for someone new to come in. So I think it'll be a situation where hopefully I think this is what happens, is that Rassie hopefully signs on to 2027. He either brings in the coaches that he wants to fill up his coaching staff with, or entrusts someone like Stick or Davids to rise up the ranks. And then by that World Cup, it's basically Rassie's DOR and one of Davids or Stick as the Jacques Nienaber, and then we fill in the gaps left by Nienaber and by Felix Jones, etc., to the team. Kooks?
But I want to say, it's not a bad thing. And a lot of people obviously speak about the effect of Rassie Erasmus. I think he's shown that the way he's run it, this Springboks at rugby, it's worked. He's got 2 freaking World Cups, for goodness sake. So I do think with Dobbo, someone like Dobbo and outside coaches, no coach wants to sort of fall in the same trap. Same situation as Alice Coetzee, where you come in, but you can't bring in the people that you want to bring in. So someone like Dobbo, or any other coach outside of the current circle of coaches, would want to bring their way in. And I think, personally, there will come a time, maybe it's after 2027, where we might actually need new voices. Like look at the All Blacks, for example. I thought with Ian Foster, it was a World Cup campaign too far with similar voices. I mean, it was Henry. Hansen was there for a long time. Then Foster joined Hansen. And then some of those players, they needed someone to just sweep the shed, to sweep out all this, sort of say thank you, Fozzie and Hansen, thank you for your contribution. But we need someone fresh, someone new now. I think that's where the Springboks might be in 2027, where they go, Karis, it's been an incredible 11 years. Now, about 11 years, then, like now maybe it's time to bring in someone like a Dobbo, or we don't know which coaches come through, but financially may have come through then and go, okay, we're gonna go, maybe you can be director of rugby, or we're gonna do director of rugby, and then we're gonna start fresh sales. So I think they definitely have another World Cup cycle in them, but I think come 2027, I think that's when it'll be a good time to bring in someone new, and that person coming new is going to want to bring their own staff, their own style, not trying to figure things out. But so also to end off, I wouldn't be surprised to see if Jacques Nienaber comes back 2025 after getting some IP from Ireland and sort of is coming in for the last 2 years. Because he kept saying it's his last game for the Springboks. Every time everyone was like, hey, Jacques, it's your last game. It's like, you never know. I'm like,
you mentioned that
I'm going full Rassie.
Yeah.
I'm going full SA mode, crazy fan mode.
No, so I guess what Kooks is asking, who's going to be the Joe Schmidt and Jason Ryan that comes into the coaching setup in the next few years? Shaun?
So, Kooks, you are 100% right. I don't ever want the Springboks to go back to a space where a head coach has dictated how they get to do things. It's very much a case of like, here's the rope, you either run with it or you hang yourself. Like, but there must be no excuses afterwards, like no reasons why it wasn't able to work. Like it was your job and that's it. But if Wizard Rassie can hocus pocus his sort of magic cauldron and put together like all this little stuff to bring the same vibe, obviously with a slight difference, but the same vibe together again for the next World Cup, he will be, without a shadow of a doubt, the greatest rugby mind ever in the history of the game. Not just the greatest coach or the greatest director of rugby, the greatest rugby mind ever. Like nobody, you can't even argue. It's just Rassie's number one. You can argue who's number two, you know, because what we did in 2019, Siya Kolisi was excellent. I loved his answer. He was asked about the World Cup and winning it and all that sort of jazz. And he basically said, in 2019, the fans hoped we'd win it. In 2023, they expected us to win it. And what Rassie Erasmus has done, because he's the director of rugby, and the way that he's brought everything into the mix and done it all from then and then into 2023 by making Jacques Nienaber head coach and just tweaking what's going on, but still being involved. If he gets to somehow rejuvenate or redo that with new faces in the coaching setup, it would be wild.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I don't know if Twitter's still having the conversations of the Springboks of now better than the All Blacks of 2015 or not, but I think a good thing to maybe aim for the Boks in this 4-year cycle is a 75% win record. Like, be consistent and, be the team that I think the Springboks can be when the back's against the wall, and it mustn't only come out when, we were under doubt and all that sort of stuff. So be consistent, throw your weight around in terms of being the best team. Like, if that could happen, if sort of that 2011 to 2015 run can happen for the Springboks now, to add obviously onto the last two Rugby World Cup campaigns, like Shaun said, then obviously there's no doubt as to who the greatest ever is. Let's try to touch on the other teams now. Kooks, I'll start with you, the finalists in the Rugby World Cup this year, the All Blacks. So a little unknown coach called Scott Robertson's coming into the team. There's been a few retirements to obviously some key players. Where to from here for them?
I think it's exciting for the All Blacks in terms of Razor coming in. Obviously Wayne Smith comes back, I think he's director of coaching. So there are a lot of changes coming in there. But I think the big concern for the All Blacks now for me is, it goes back to Shane Frizzell's gone overseas. Now they're going to find a blindside flanker. And the curse of Shane Frizzell is he's leaving after finally stepping into the player that they wanted him to be for the longest time. And they need a 10. As good as Razors can be, I can't see Dave McKenzie as an out-and-out 10. And unfortunately, their fly-half stocks aren't as deep as they used to be. It reminds me back when Stephen Donald used to be, when Stephen Donald's in the mix, when guys were saying like, oh no, it's Carter or bust. At least they had the greatest 10 of all time to rely on and just hope he never gets injured. But now it's hard now. I think this is probably the worst group of 10s they've had in a while. So I think that's Razor's first concern, is to sort of find it.
And their nines are green as well, eh?
The nines are green as well. I think, obviously, Finley Christie and Roy are probably the incumbents moving forward, but there's no one sort of stepping up. They lost. After 2011, Aaron Smith stepped in seamlessly to the jersey and made it his own. And I think for them, that's going to be the big one. I think prop-wise, they're sorted. Locks, I think someone like Josh Lord and Tupuvai, they're still raw. They'll all get better. And then you still got the Scott Barretts coming back, I think. So I do think, like, locks-wise, they'll be fine. And then you look at Lucy's, Artie's probably thinks he's got one more World Cup in him. Sam Cam is resting. So I do think Sam Cam's resting, and then they tend to do well in the Lucy. Centers will be fine in the back. It's just got to find a fly-half and a loose forward. And a decision for me needs to be made about Will Jordan and Jordie Barrett. The Raiders got to decide right now, what is Will Jordan? Is he going to play him as a fullback? Or are they going to, again, go to Jordie Barrett and say, you are out now 12, you're going to be 12 for the next 4 years, or they're going to go. Because I just think with Jordie Barrett, a decision needs to be made. Because he can either be a world-class 10 or a world-class 12, or take him back to his natural position, which is 15. So they've got to figure out what to do with Jordie and Will Jordan. But it's good questions, it's good questions and problems to have. But the 10 one for me, that's the big issue. I think that's when New Zealand rugby is trying to figure out, do we allow guys like Vernon Barrett to play overseas but still play for the All Blacks? I think this is the toughest test for their overseas policy.
Yeah, Jordie Barrett has to stay at 12. They can't move him again unless they're going to move him somewhere, and then he really is going to become that absolute beast player 23, or that player that will always start. He is always going to start, but then you really can be confident that he can start at 12 or 15 or 10 or whatever. But yeah, I think their 10s, I'm racking my brain now trying to think of some other 10s. They don't really have anyone that's really put their hand up and said,
Ruben
cool,
Love?
I've got this. Love, yeah, but he's not really tested. So you're going to have McKenzie and then have him come off the bench. I'm worried with their 9s, because the thing is changing your 9 and your 10 and having uncertainty there. McKenzie's going to start at 10. I think we understand that. Like, he's going to start at 10 or 15. But then you don't have the Aaron Smith there and to just completely sort everything out. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Very interesting times ahead. But the one thing the All Blacks do well is integrate players into their system. Well, it's not into their system. They're always integrated into their system. It's just the way they are. But I think they bring guys in pretty well, you know?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see also Foster, Razor without Richie Mo'unga, at least for a year, and see how he works around that. I mean, Mo'unga is still young enough to be really good at the next Rugby World Cup. He'll be 33. So, I mean, he's, I think, the same age as Pollard. So, in theory, he should be, he's probably started to reach his peak now. So, he should be still in his peak up until the end of the next cycle. So, I guess the question is now, once he comes back from his sabbatical, like, I think most things fall into place. Because I think Roygaard will probably be the number 9. And I mean, they still have Flyhalf Katavo's basically been doing an apprenticeship with Aaron Smith at the Highlanders. They still have, I think it's Ratters, the scrummer for the Chiefs. They still have talent there. The number 6 question is going to be very interesting, but I like the look of that Finau, Samapeni Finau that played for the Chiefs this year as well. So he might be the person that could step up. And Frizzell, I guess in theory, could still come back. But yeah, I mean, the coaching staff, though, the strength of the coaching staff is scary. With Razor, with Ryan, with Wayne Smith coming to assist as well. Like, that's, I think, what's going to be quite interesting, and seeing how those rugby minds come together is, I mean, we saw now with just putting in Schmidt and Ryan how much better and intimidating the All Blacks were. So, I mean, these are probably some of the best young minds in rugby at the moment. So yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how they work around those resources. Kooks?
I think the master stroke is getting Wayne Smith back, because as strong as Thala, I think you make a great point is of how strong their coaching staff is with Liam McDonald's and Jason Holland and the young coaches as well. But it's also depleted the coaching in the Super Rugby sides. That's why I think Wayne Smith's going to play a massive role in being that bridge between developing, obviously, the Razors, the Liam McDonald's, and also developing, I know, like Crusaders, for example, when like Rob Penny sounded a bit older, but I think there's a few coaches in the New Zealand Super Rugby sides who probably are known and untested. I think obviously for them, they do have great structures with their coaches, but I think someone like Wayne Smith coming back comes to be a perfect master stroke. And I think he will probably say, listen, guys, we need to find more 10s here. And it's weird with the All Blacks, because they did find themselves, there was a stage when Carter was so far ahead of everyone else that like it did feel like Carter or bust. And then within one World Cup cycle, they had Carter, Cruden, Barrett, Sipowaga. Then there was sport for choice at 10. So I think the big one for the coaches is to get, I think Richie is gone on a sabbatical, right? I don't think Richie's gone for good.
Yeah, sabbatical.
I think once he gets back, I think, and like you said, Thala, he's hitting the perfect notes at 10. He's starting to get mature. So I think that's going to be the big one for them. Their World Cup campaign in the next 4 years, I think the All Blacks go as far as Richie Mo'unga takes them, in terms of, because there's a big gap between him and the next best 10. And if the next best 10 is Daniel McKenzie, that's not a hill I'm willing to die on. And I know a lot of DMAC fans, and the error rate hurts them too much. And unless obviously he can get better, but I think they go as far as Richie Mo'unga takes them, unless they want to groom. There's a young Manila Bok in New Zealand playing, who's been shafted around for many unions, waiting for their chance in 2028.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting also. I mean, Adi Severe is also going on a sabbatical as well. So I think next year is almost a gap year, kind of similar to what Kooks was saying for the Springboks. It's almost a gap year for the All Blacks. They can probably experiment a little bit, maybe go a bit younger. And then, once those players come back in 2025, I guess that's when the business end starts. But I think Razor will see what happened to Foster and try not to start off on a bad note, especially with how it ended for New Zealand in the last year. So he probably wants to go off on a good start as well. So he'll be hoping that at least in terms of like the Rugby Championship and the Bledisloe Cup, that he can still win that even if he doesn't have Mo'unga, Bowden Barrett, Ardie Savea, etc., etc. Also, one exciting thing for the All Blacks, that front row looks really good for the next World Cup cycle. Fletcher Newell, Tamaiti Williams, Samsani Takeaho, Ethan de Groot, not Fletcher Newell, sorry, Turo Lomax are all going to be not older than 32, I think, at the next World Cup. So they should grow together. And I mean, they showed in this World Cup campaign how good they are in the set piece with Jason Ryan coaching them. Okay, let's go through the other teams. The third place team in the World Cup was England. Very interesting team. Obviously, with Steve Borthwick coaching them to a third place position. They've also probably, I guess, in the middle of most of their great players being in the early 30s. Shaun, what's the questions or what is the things to look forward to for England for the next cycle?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They've probably found themselves again because they kind of went a little bit wayward. They've got to be England, have to be England, and I think they've come to terms with that after wondering. But the big thing is just sorting out a few positions. Joe Marchant is in France now, so I personally feel. So I think Ollie Lawrence, I love him at 12, but he's really good 13. But they don't have a lot of options at 13. They've got a few positions they're going to have to fill. But yeah, it's weird. I can't quite put my finger on what exactly they need to do at the moment. I think they need to really kind of stick with the guys that they've got. Obviously, a couple of guys have retired. But then they've got to pretty much go with the same-ish type setup for the Six Nations. And then just kind of cement that. It's going to be boring rugby. But, what are they going to do? I think Arundel, he scored a hat-trick on his debut for Racing last night. He's going to come back into the mix. As far as I know, he is still eligible for England, even though he's gone to Racing for a little bit. For another season, I believe, but I could be completely wrong. But yeah, for England, it's going to be pretty much the same, but different. They're going to be boring, and they're going to have to set up their foundation before they do anything, which I think they started in the World Cup.
Kooks, your team that you predicted for great success at the World Cup, how do you see them going in the next cycle? Let's hear from the Oracle.
Thala, they were 100 fall away from making me a rich man. But I think I'm actually inclined with Shaun, where I'm treating the Six Nations almost as an extension to the World Cup, because it's still in season, just to keep that momentum flowing. I think England are in a good place now, a lot of positivity. Obviously, certain guys, maybe like a Dane Coles, might not be there, Six Nations, but I keep the nucleus of the team for the Six Nations, sort of playing a similar style. And then come June, when it's the end of their season, that's when I start making the big decisions of how they're going to play. Making decisions such as, are we going to keep going forward on Farrell or George Ford? Is Marcus Smith going to be our 10? I think that's the way to go. I think that call needs to be made soon, for example. Figure out, if it's Marcus Smith's going to be our guy, we've got to back him for the next year or two. What's going to happen with Freddie Stewart? He's going to move to 12. I think that Shaun, you say they have a 13 problem. I think they have a crisis at 12. That's my issue. That there's not many good English Premier League 12s. Don't give any. I'm still surprised that Steve Borthwick is not asking Andre Estes just to become South African, to become English, like begging him, like, just don't go back home for 4 years.
Because they shouldn't move Farrell to 12 anymore. So I think that's where it is. But so Lawrence can play 12, but I'm so torn with this. I think he's probably a better 13, but he can play 12. Bath have also got Ojomo, who also is a talent for the future, someone to look out for. But Freddie Stewart must be an option at 12. He has to be an option, and that's also a way of probably starting more starting more players. Because I don't know, do they want to keep Smith at 15? Do you think that's a viable option? I think it's an option, an in-game option. I think it's a strategic option that he could play 12 and 15, or play 15 and move to 10 and 15 and play 15 and move into 10 in the game. Yeah, they're options, but I think they're going to have to be boring as for the Six Nations. Farrell can go to the next World Cup, and honestly, the form Farrell's in and the way he plays, I know people hate him, but you don't hate him because of the way he plays rugby. You hate him because he's English and because he tackles like shit. But Farrell's going to be, by the end of next year, he's going to be the top Six Nations point scorer in history. He's going to, he's going to carry on doing what he does, but he plays best at 10, and he's the captain, and I don't see them moving away from him in the next 2 years at least. I don't even know how old he is, but I'm pretty sure he can go to the next World Cup.
Yeah, Faz is 31 this year, so he'll be 35 in Australia in 2027. So it is. But we've seen Sexton, Farrell's made of similar spite and anger, so you can probably
and tackle vibes
it that as well. Look, I think for England. Go on, Kooks, quickly.
Sorry, Tyler. I'll say, like, if I was England, if I'm keeping Farrell for the next 4 years. I had a great conversation about England at a wedding I was at recently. And
of course.
So,
you can't get away from it, man.
No, and then I was like, and we were talking about England, he said, when I met, actually, we know, I met Tom. You guys know Tom. We spoke about England.
Yes. No way, congrats.
He said what he would do is he would take the captaincy away from Farrell. Not because he can't lead, just tell him. Then he said, you look at Ireland and England with Farrell and 6 and 10. They have a lot on their plate, and when they get so frustrated with like referee decisions, it affects the team in a negative way, because they get so frustrated sometimes talking to referees and having to run the team as well, that it does sort of pile on the team. You look at against South Africa, the silly penalty that Farrell gave away where they got extra 10 yards. If I'm England, if Farrell's going to play on the next 4 years, I take away the captaincy from him, man. I like the idea of just letting him play. You're telling Farrell, you have 4 years. If you're going to get there, you're just going to focus on playing rugby. Pull the strings together, but then they have to sort of find someone underneath. Is Marcus Smith going to be the guy? Is the other 10s coming up in the Premiership? But I think the Farrell one is a decision they must make early, because you're going to give Farrell the keys, and then come 2026, Farrell goes, you know what, guys, I'm over this. So good luck. You have a year to find a 10.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that I think England needs to decide on a core, and then the rest can sort of sort itself out. So in my sort of thinking of what the core is, it's Theo Dan, who's obviously 22, showed a lot of good potential in the World Cup. He's under Jamie George's wing at Saracens as well. It's Theo Dan, it's Ellis Genge, it's Ollie Cheza, Mitoje, and George Martin. Martin had a brilliant game, obviously, in that semi-final. It's Tom Curry, Ben Earl, the Willises, both of them as well. It's Alex Mitchell, it's Jack van Poorvliet, it's Marcus Smith, it's Freddie Stewart, and it's Ollie Lawrence, and it's Harry Arundel. And those players, I think it's about 12 players I've mentioned, they should hopefully, most of them, be in the World Cup squad for 2027. They're the ones that should get as many caps as possible. So like Shaun said, I think carry on with the vibes of what happened in this last few games of World Cup, carry with the same team pretty much. And then for the July series against, the small little island team called New Zealand, in the 2024 July series, I think that's when you go, Faz, take a bit of a break, George, take a bit of a break, maybe Sinclair, those sort of players, and then kind of throw the younger players in the deep end. And sort of what happened with Clive Woodward in 1998 with the team with Wilkinson and Dawson and such, and just say, look, sink or swim, like make the most of it. And then that team is built around. And then the older players like George and Farrell, you can say to them, look, prove your form in the Premiership, prove your commitment to the what you want to do as a coach, and you're part of the team. You can obviously fight to get into the starting team, but the core is going to be Smith. The core is going to be Dan. They're going to be the ones getting the opportunities to start. And then we know what we have with you guys, and we can obviously throw you guys the bone when we need to. So it's gonna be interesting because it's a shifting of eras somewhat. Someone like Itoje, funny enough, is still 28, but obviously he's played a lot of Test rugby. Curry is still 25, and he's played a lot of Test rugby. George Ford is nearing 100 caps, and he's only 30. So there's a lot of players that have played a lot, but yeah, but the age profile is favorable. And then there's a lot of young players like Stewart and Smith who have pretty much got themselves to 30 Test caps quite quickly. And it's now about building around those players that have shown that they're world class, have shown that they're young enough to, still go on for 2027. And then going, okay, Smith is not the fastest fullback in the world. Okay, can we use him on first phase as a 12? Can we move him to 12? Marcus Smith maybe needs more of a game manager at 9. Okay, can we teach Alex Mitchell to play like he played in the World Cup semi-final pretty much every week? And start working around the talents that you have instead of just, hoping that some players become players that they just won't become, honestly. Because I think that's been the issue with England sometimes, is they hoping that Smith becomes a game manager like Ford and Farrell. That won't really happen. They've kind of hoped for these players. And then what started clicking for them is them using Smith in open spaces, using Ben Earl off the base of the scrum, and then they started becoming a lot better. So that'll be very interesting. I think England, it's going to be pragmatic as hell, like Shaun was saying, but they've got a good chance of becoming really good. I mean, they've got the players, they've just got key gaps that a coach has to figure out. Okay, Shaun,
sorry, Thala. I called England, so I called South Africa, England, and France to get into the final of Rugby World Cup 2023 in 2019. I called that.
Yeah.
Because England had it. They had it all going for them in 2019. They really and moving forward, they seem to be on track. So they had the players to go to 2023, and now, I mean, you've just reeled off 12 guys plus that can take them to the next World Cup. So they really do have the goods to move on. They just need to just stay away from England. Like, they need to stay away from the media. They need to just, do their thing. So they've definitely got it. Sure.
Moving to the fourth place team, which is Argentina. A team in an interesting position, I think, as well. They've got some players that are obviously probably definitely too old. Augustin Creevy is 38 already. Crazy.
Never too old. Augustine is going to the next World Cup, and him and his neck are going to hurt people, and he's going to score tries. So don't worry about it.
He'll be at the World Cup after that as well. Some of obviously Nicolas Sanchez as well. He was 35. De La Fuente, Moroni are also in their 30s. Imhoff is 35 somehow. But they're changing coaches. Czech is stepping off. They've got Felipe Contepomi stepping in. He's been basically in the Leinster system the last few years and has been assistant coach for the last few. So be interesting to see how he steps in. Kooks, Argentina is a difficult one because, as we've said, when you expect them to play well, they're horrible. When you expect them to be terrible, they're brilliant. But, a young coach, they've still got some really good and interesting young talents, likes of Thomas Gallo, Juan Martin Gonzalez, Sancho Chugabares, those sort of players. Like, they've got players with a lot of talent. It's now just about putting it all together.
I think basically just read every article that's written about Argentina post 2007 World Cup, post 2015 World Cup. Hopefully this is the time they put it all together. They're probably the easiest one because they're going to be up and down. It's a roller coaster with them, I think. But I think hopefully Felipe Contepomi, who's proven to be a very good coach domestically in the work he's done in Argentina under Michael Cheika, I think it's about time now that they actually try to sort of find some consistency, whether that is winning a series in June and aiming to come maybe the 1 year they come second in the Rugby Championship, get two scopes, one of Australia, one of the All Blacks, or one of the Springboks. So I think for them they've got to start looking above it, and it can't always be Argentina's dark horses. Argentina, you never know what's going to happen that day, or discipline is if they just discipline who knows what's going to happen? We can't sing the same tune about them for another 4 years. So it's going to be interesting what happens now with Felipe Contempomi. Because Michael Cheika, I thought he did do a good job. I think I mean they were a bit of a mess when he took over, and he got him to third place, which is what Michael Cheika does. He just rebuilds sides. So it's going to be interesting to see what Felipe Contempomi does with this foundation. It's a good foundation to have, and they do have good youngsters coming through. And so I just think hopefully they can build from this and sort of use 2024 as a stepping stone and into something bigger. Because the Wallabies will be rebuilding, the All Blacks will be rebuilding, the Springboks, yeah, they'll be tweaking a few things there. So they do have a chance to make a splash in the Rugby Championship if needs be. So I think for them, for Argentina, I think next year's is probably the most important in terms of results-wise, to sort of keep up the momentum. They don't want to make one step forward and then 4 steps back, and then it's back to same old Argentina and hoping they become underdogs again for the next World Cup.
I think the nice thing for Argentina is a lot of their main team is still pretty much similar, like mid to late 20s, early 30s. So they should be able to stay together. But yeah, Shaun, I think the big question is, do you still persist with Carreras, trying to make him into a fly half or not? And once you make a decision on that, then it's, okay, how do you fix the front row? Like, how do you build around Montoya and Thomas Gajol and try to get, hopefully, a tight head that can actually scrum? I think if Contemporary can sort out those two questions, who's his fly half and who's his 10, I mean, who's his fly half and who's his 3, I think they'll be a very good team again.
Yeah, the 10 one's an interesting one for me. I think as a whole, it's probably not working. I'd like to have seen Sanchez on more. I thought he was this was his World Cup with his form and everything was probably in a better shot for him. But if Cheika doesn't carry on, one of those coaches that are there with him now will most likely take over, you feel. So it looks like he's going to stay at 10 then. So, yeah, it's the weird one. What other options do they have? That's my other question. So, yeah, it's going to be weird. But the one thing that Argentina do need to get back is they need to get their scrum back. They need to get it back. They need to focus heavily on that, and they need to dominate. They've got the locks and the Lucies to take it forward as well. So it's huge. So I don't know what they're going to do, but they have to fix it and have to fix it sharpish. And having said that, Kooks, that totally let me down this World Cup. I expected way more of them. I think everyone did, to be fair. I'm not the only one. But yeah, they were... I just don't know where from here, though. You know, like, where do you've got to farm them out and then hopefully bring them back. You've got to figure out how Cheika's got them back and sorted them out and managed to bring them all back in and made them work together well. You need to kind of bottle that and take it forward. But yeah, they were quite a bit disappointing this World Cup.
Yeah, we know that Argentina is great in World Cups in Europe, which is where they usually get themselves to semi-finals. And then other World Cups, but so. There's a player called Geronimo Prisciantelli who plays for Zebre. He played fullback for Zebre on Saturday. I think he's a regular for them. I think he's probably the best bet for Pumas for number 10 going forward. But he also doesn't play regularly at number 10 for his club. So it's the same situation.
So he's a perfect fit then.
Yeah. The best solution for Argentina to get consistent again, or at least more consistent, is get the Jaguares in a serious club competition. But hopefully the American club competition or like South American and American club competition continues to grow. Let's go to France. Kooks. I mean, Kieran Reid said that France basically is where New Zealand was in 2007, like obviously knocked out in the quarterfinal when there's a lot of expectations. Team's still young enough and coaching staff still staying there. They can still make a run for their 2011. Antoine Dupont's going to dilly-dally with a bit of sevens. Before that, apparently a few other players going to play in the sevens as well because it's being hosted, or the Olympics, are being hosted in Paris. But I think otherwise it's about just, what are the things to learn from that quarterfinal loss against the Springboks? Is it just about look, continue to just grow in experience, and you'll turn that loss into a victory, basically.
I think what hurt France is the lessons there. It's lessons that that'll be good for them in the long run. They lost. I mean, they lost an experienced side. Aside those Springboks, aside that knew when to close out games, how to win those sort of games. And France will probably look back at that 15-minute period after halftime where they had all those chances and they couldn't score. But again, it's experience thing, right? And I think France is probably, to make a run for the next World Cup, they're probably the best placed side in the world in terms of age profile, players coming back, who's going to be at their peak, who's going to be at their peak depth-wise. I mean, there's this 19-year-old flyhalf slotting winners. I mean, a winner in the weekend for La Rochelle. I mean, they've got players coming through there, and 20s are in a good place. So France is in a good place. France, it's weird because it's a World Cup, and yes, knockout rugby hurts. They were flipping a 100 Pollard penalty away from going to the semi-final. I mean, they lost the game. They didn't lose because they played shit. They were involved in the greatest games ever. So they don't feel like they need to blow everything up. So I think with France, it's almost, they'll learn from this. I think this lesson here is something that will sit deep in their core, the same way that French games that the All Blacks had sat deep in them. They use it, and McCaw and them use them as motivation to make sure that never happens again. And that soft underbelly that the All Blacks sort of felt like they used to have in pre-2011, I think France that's something that's going to sit there. I think so. They lost could end up being a blessing in disguise for them come 2027, but there's not much there to fix. I just think, they lost a crazy game in the World Cup quarterfinal. They've got all their best players coming back. They've got youngsters coming through. They've got the best under 20 group in the longest time. And so I think they're still in a good place.
Yeah. You add a bit of Emmanuel Miafu coming in. You add the under 20s, like you've mentioned as well. You add all of the players that maybe couldn't make the World Cup squad now. I mean, someone like Ronan O'Gara wasn't even a feature in the World Cup this time. It's a scary position to be in. I think, Shaun, the big thing for France, I guess, the only positional thing that I'm thinking of is just tight head and obviously finding a replacement for Willie Antonio.
Sure. It's a big shoes to fill, literally. France are, I think now already are absolutely front runners for the next World Cup. If you have a look at what they've got and the structures and everything, someone like Australia or England could always obviously come up whenever. Springboks and New Zealand too, but yeah, the French are looking good, and it is really only that one position that they need to fill. They've pretty much got cover everywhere else, and it's about balancing everything. I mean, they've got a shitload of nines coming through as well. It's wild. They've got nines, they've got tens. Not that they need more nines and tens, but they've got them. They've got midfielders, they've got outside backs, they've got players all over the show. So finding one position to fill, which I don't think it's too far away to fill. I don't think it's like a massive, massive problem for them to fill it. I think it's about finding the right guy. It's going to be a toss up between a few guys, but the one guy's going to take his chance and step up, and that's going to be it. And then they'll be fine.
Yeah. And I think the Dupont sojourn into the sevens will be a blessing in disguise in making their team less Dupont reliant, which maybe was one of the reasons why they lost that game near the end, was when Dupont is not able to, manufacture something, what happens? But I mean,
guys, we worked him. We worked him so hard. We knew everything was coming through, and we worked him.
Yeah, and he still had a brilliant game, like all things considered.
He had a great game.
Well. Yes,
but all his errors cost him, and that was what we did. We just worked him, and we worked him. I still haven't watched that game again, and I cannot wait to watch it. I might just go and do it now. All this talk.
Yeah, so I guess that's similar to the Carter and McCaw sabbaticals in between the All Black World Cups, as Dupont goes away, can come back, obviously great, and come back hungry. And now there's also a bit of depth added, and the team becomes less reliant on those key players. Shaun, Ireland. Is it a matter of phoning a sangoma or a witch doctor for our Irish listeners? Like, I genuinely don't know what what notes you can give them other than, I mean, continue what you're doing, but just find a way to be really, really, really good when it's quarterfinal time.
Yeah, it's so weird. In an alternate universe where Ireland have made it past the quarterfinal in the World Cup, it's a different baby for them. You know, they probably go on and win it. The pressure got to them a little bit, but the All Blacks, that was their final, in inverted commas. They were out of this world. Ireland, I tell you, before the World Cup, even when Crowley was named, everyone was umming and ahhing about the next 10. I think Jack Crowley's the next fly half. I wouldn't look too far away around other places. I know Byrne and a couple other guys are in the mix, but I think Jack Crowley's their guy for now. I've totally switched my mind off. So, you know, do they have enough players coming up through the ranks to fill certain positions? I think they do. I think their midfield will still be okay. I think Antoine Frisch qualifies for Ireland a while ago, a long time ago. I know he qualified for France as well for a little bit, but you know, he's probably going to come in the mix. They've still got Hume and a whole bunch of guys like midfield. Their wingers are always going to be fine. You know, that Leinster setup, you know, they just churn out players. So I think they'll be okay. I don't think it's going to be a player problem. I think it's going to be like, how do we overcome that hurdle problem? So, you know, it's going to be very interesting. Farrell's getting a look in for the Lions tour, if I'm not mistaken. He'll probably still stay on as Irish coach. So, you know, there'll be some learnings from that, but he's a pretty experienced coach, just not very much as a front-on head coach as we used to. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's weird. It's almost, I've got such a weird feeling like it was now or never for Ireland. That's how it feels. Like, are they ever going to have this group of players again? You know, there are going to be learnings that are going to come out of it. Like, should they have played their first choice side so often? Was that the right call? You're obviously looking back and saying no, but we were all shit scared about it at one stage. We were like really worried because they were just, you know, churning it out. You know, could they go all the way? So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see an Ireland side like that again and as dominant for a very long time. They're going to be good, and they probably could go deep in a World Cup with a not as dominant and talented squad in the future. But yeah, it was, I think the moment got too big for them.
Yeah, it's a confusing thing to think about because they've notched up pretty much all the things that you need to do if you want to take that next step. They won away to New Zealand. They obviously won Six Nations. They beat pretty much everyone. And I mean, I guess apart from Sexton,
they ran into the best World Cup ever.
Yeah,
they coincided their best ever anything with the best French side, a wounded All Black side, and the best Springbok side. Not that they faced the Springboks, all the French, but like any other time, if you look at how Ireland are, any other time in a World Cup, that side goes on and wins it almost all the time. They just ran into a shit storm. It just was the perfect storm against them.
I think, to quote Moneyball, Brad Pitt at the end says, you can do whatever you want, you can change or everything you want to change, but all the changes you're going to make, you have an incredible run, but it means nothing if you can't win the last game of the season. And I think with Ireland, that's a theme. Like it as much as it hurts, I mean, they were incredible the run, and for them, they run leading the World Cup means fuck all because they could not get over the hump. They don't want to hear about winning 17 straight.
That hurts.
They don't want to hear about being the attacking side of the best attacking side of in the world. That we all look back and be like, it's one of the best sides in between World Cups we've ever seen. They give two shits about that, all because they just could not get over that hump. And so for me, for Ireland, what I would do is if the Proteas get to the semi-finals in Australia, I'm phoning all the Proteas to be like, can you please have a seminar on getting over the hump? Because clearly we can't do this. We tried the rugby version of it, so when the Proteas to go to Ireland, and show them how to get over the hump. Because I don't know what else they can do, guys. I genuinely do not know what else they can do.
That is exactly it. What else can be done? And honestly, nothing.
Because they've tried everything. I mean, it's like that's the hard part is they've had poor sides losing the quarterfinal. They've had legends, Brian O'Driscoll, they couldn't get it right. That's the hard thing. And I think for them, I still think they have a good enough squad to go back in 2027. I think Andy Farrell's a fantastic coach. I think they might even have to look at maybe potentially going younger, getting guys who are doing well in the 20s, been to finals, Sam Pendergrass, guys like that. And like I think
there's a youngster that's coming through, right?
So it's one of those things where they're going to try and figure out from there. They're still good players. They still churn out players. But yeah, flipping hell. I'll pay money. You know what I want to do, actually? I'm actually going to convince the Irish government to get all those legends together and just sit down in a room and just talk about it. Talk about the quarterfinal failure and bring the youngsters in to say, we don't want this for you. I'll pay good money to watch that. I want to see O'Driscoll breaking down to tears, talking about losing a quarterfinal, then Johnny Sexton breaking down to tears as well, and sit there sipping my 4 World Cup beers. That's what I want. This
sounds like something for you, Kooks, and not for Ireland.
This literally sounds like you just saying rubbing it in. You were doing fine until the 4 World Cup beers part.
Guys, you got to talk about your problems. They say the first thing you do is sit down and accept your problems. Talk about them in open. They say we have a problem.
If I'm gonna be, we have a problem. If I'm gonna be a dick about this, Ireland would need to not be so reliant on a player, like Johnny Sexton. So, for me, there was a part in that World Cup where Sexton should have come off, but he didn't. Like if we're going to be ruthless about this, which they're going to have to be, because if they're going to unpack this World Cup, they're going to have to look at something. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but that Sexton situation, it was written in the stars, and I think that emotional moment got too much. Like, he can do it. We've seen him do it for Ireland so many times, but he was looking much. So, you know, they've got to do stuff like that. They've got to rotate things, maybe. I don't know. I think, but again, Kooks, you're right. Like, they couldn't have done anything else except just win the game. There was no tactical space. There was no bad decisions made. Like, it was just that everything was great about them. They just didn't do it.
Yeah, I think there's a few. I mean, France, I guess, similarly, a few teams that category, and I guess the positives for both is that they've got really good young stock. Obviously, Ireland was also in the final of the under-20s just now. They've been having probably the best under-20s program along with France in the last few years, so they should be sorted there. They should also put Bandi Aki in like ice until 2027 because wow, he was brilliant in the World Cup. Okay, let's do a few quick hits on some of the rest of the teams. Kooks, Wales, do they just disband the Dragons?
No. Don't you come here, Thala, and make me talk bad about the Dragon. You don't want me to discard the Scarlet.
He doesn't need to prompt you to do it. You do it all by yourself anyway.
I've forgiven the Dragons. The Scarlets are now my new enemy now. Those guys who came to South Africa. They just came in to boost our economy, those guys.
How did the Dragons pull themselves out of the shits, and what did the Scarlets do to you? I think that's a question on everyone's lips, so now answer.
Scarlets just came here they just came on safe on holiday. They had like rugby was like a side hustle for them. They just came here to Pretoria. But also, what pisses me off the Scarlets is they chose a terrible tour to just be shit. Like, they're in Pretoria, they wanted to do in Pretoria. Then they were in Cape Town, and they're playing Stellenbosch. So they didn't go to Cape Town. Like, huh? It's like me planning a trip to Europe and then going to flipping Prague, and then going to and then I go to Prague and then going to the worst parts of Italy. Like, I didn't go to the main places. I didn't go like to Madrid or things like that. That's like Scholars. That's why I don't like Scholars. But I think for Wales, the Welsh one is tough. I think it's you got to let go of all the oldest players. I think Warren Catlin now can start from scratch. There's a few promising youngsters coming through. There's a few guys there that you can build around. But it's Warren Ball for another 4 years.
Kooks, but
even though I think Warren Catlin gets coming back to 2027.
He signed until 2027.
He ain't gonna be there. He ain't gonna be there.
How very Eddie Jones is there.
Look,
Guess
but
not going to be there.
looking at the log, though, at the URC log, Ospreys have 2 wins out of 4. Scarlets have 1 win out of 3. Cardiff has 1 win out of 3. And Dragons has 0 wins out of 4. Like, I'm not sure what you can build as like a good, sustainable team that's, yeah, like beyond obviously Gatlin Magic and Warren Ball and all that sort of stuff. If your domestic teams aren't even performing.
No, I think with Wales, they go as far as Warren Gatland takes it. So if Warren Gatland just gets to the next World Cup, he'll find a way. He'll find a plan. He's probably the most important person in Welsh rugby. So if he's still there, which I don't know if he's got another. I just think sometimes like the way he spoke about the situation in Wales last year, he was like, "If I knew this was the situation, I would have taken the job." And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Yeah, just for the World Cup, it's like, oh, if I knew this, I want to take the job. So I think they're going to get worse before they get better. But the most important thing for Wales is to try to find a way to keep Warren Gatland there until 2027 and hope domestically things turn around. Because now, if URC changed the rules now, there's no one team one team from each conference or region has to make the Champions Cup. So you could sit in a situation where there's no teams in the Champions Cup, with no Welsh sides in the Champions Cup next year.
Yeah. The thing about Gatland is he's the most unego guy on the planet. He doesn't mind playing 10-man rugby. He couldn't give a rat's. But that's an interesting one, Thala, like talking about Wales and where they're going to go. I think first thing they need to do is they need to allow any Welsh player that's playing in the Premiership to qualify for Wales. I think that's their first step.
Yeah,
they need to fix that shit. Like, they got some quality players in the mix. Hawkins, is it Hawkins?
Yeah.
I'm doubting myself. I mean, he's brilliant. But having said that, the Welsh didn't really have a problem in the midfield. That is the one thing that I will say. I don't think their midfield was leaky. But yeah, they've got guys that they've got opportunity to have better guys, and I think they really need it.
Yeah, look, I think we'll judge Wales by how much do you actually want to watch a Wales regional team in the URC. At the moment, unfortunately, like if I see my Bulls or like a South African team is against them, I'm like, I'll give that a skip. Okay, let's try to finish this. Shaun, let's go. I'm going to keep okay, Kooks, let's go with Scotland. Let's give you the floor.
Oh, I don't know. Where do you even go, Scotland? Oh, I don't know. Just like find a way and just can they just stop beating England and then losing the next week? Like I think that's the big one. I think with Scotland is they do have a base to build from. I think they do have good sides coming through. I mean, you look at Ben Healy. I thought he was very good for Edinburgh. Like watching the highlights on the weekend of him. And then like they've got players. They've got players coming through. I mean, Gregor Townsend's there. So for me, the biggest thing is the consistency. Not this thing of having 2 great games a year is not going to serve them well, because they got in the World Cup and they needed to be consistent. They needed 2 big performances, whether it was against the Springboks or against Ireland, and they put up stinkers in both. So when you need Scotland the most, when the big occasion comes, when they step up, they always falter. It's like clockwork. So I think that's good for them. It's a mental shift of goodness, and they have a good enough side to challenge Six Nations. We've seen that, but it can't just be win Calcutta Cup and then from then we'll go lose to Wales the next week, or we'll lose Calcutta Cup and we put a spread performance against Ireland. They're too good. They're too good of a side to be like that. So I'm interested to see how they develop from there. But I think I won't be surprised the next 2 years. I think they'll probably have a similar group of players, the same core players. I think Gregor Townsend has found something in this group, but he just can't get them to fire when they need to fire. That's, for me, is going to be the big difference thing. If Gregor Townsend can't get them a top 2 place in the next 2 Six Nations, then unfortunately, I think come 2025, he needs to go.
It's the hope that kills, eh? What I will say about Scotland is the losses and how they went out of this World Cup should, and I'm hoping will, build them better as a team, because you're right in that they've got a core that can stick together. They've got enough guys to hang around. So they need to figure out how to manage themselves when someone is absolutely cutting Duan van der Merwe or Darcy Graham or Carl Steyn out wide, if they're cutting them to shreds, and nullifying the most exciting attacking midfield out there. They need to figure out how to work around that space. I really feel they've got the players. I think they've got the loose forwards. I think they've got the pack. They just need to figure out how to overcome that mental space in a game, because it was a case of like we made against the Springboks. They made one line break. We scrambled, flip and roll, and got away with it. They didn't score, but then after that, they were nowhere. Like, how do you change things up? How do you manage it in game to sort things out so you can force the team to not focus on your wingers? Because I'm not saying don't use your wingers again and don't use your lucrative attacking flair, but make the team focus on something else for 5-10 phases or 5-10 minutes, and then you spark them out wide.
I don't think Scotland gets to the top table of international teams until they sort out their tight five. Number one. Number two, they need to find a game plan that's just less Finn reliant. So he can't be the guy that's making the most carries and the most passes as well. Like, they need to be able to, insert Finn obviously when his talents when there's opportunity, and let the game come to him instead of him running everything, because it's pretty much shut Finn down. You pretty much shut the whole attack down. Shaun, let's finish off with the Wallabies. This might be a long one.
Oh, who's going to coach them? Firstly, they haven't announced the coach yet.
Steve Hansen.
Yeah.
Who wants to coach them? That's the real question.
The best team you could coach right now is the Wallabies. The absolute best. The same as when Rassie Erasmus came into the mix when Alice Coetzee left. When you pick up a team that is the lowest they've ever been in their life and they hate everything and everyone, then you can go there. Because if you shit, then you are just like everyone else. But if you're good, then you're a legend. The Wallabies, you know me, I'm all about balance. Like, you can't just cut everyone down and say you can only have like youngsters and all that sort of stuff. They've got enough, but there's other stuff. I mean, Mark Nawanaka Tawasi is rumored to be moving to NRL. Like, if they start losing their best players, then they're in shit. Like, they're in deeper shit than we thought. But I'm interested to see what happens and where they go, because they probably have the longest journey, but they have an opportunity. But the problem that they have is they have a Lions tour. A Lions tour almost hurt the Springboks, because you don't have opportunity to blood youngsters and do whatever you need to do because you want to win a Lions tour. Like, is that Lions tour going to be a freebie for the next coach? Like, you don't want that. That comes around like once every lifetime. So we're in for some interesting times. They just need to make better decisions with the players they've got in terms of balancing the starting and the bench and all that sort of jazz. I think they've got what it takes, but they're better than what they've performed recently.
Yeah, it's tough to. I mean, there's so many structural things to fix before you can expect the Wallabies to be, any good right now, honestly. Like, similar to, I guess, what we were talking about with Wales, like, the domestic teams, for the most part, I pretty much except for the Brumbies, are usually not that good. You're not really producing good young players. Obviously they're competing with other sports that are similar as well in the Aussie market. So, what do you do? Who can you build around? I think in terms of the coach thing, they need to stop going back to X's. So don't phone Checker back. Don't phone Dean's back. Don't do that. Don't phone Ian McKenzie back. Like, they need to just back a young coach and just sort of say to him, look,
I would love McKenzie to be back. I would love him to be back.
No. Don't go back to your ex unless you're Wales, which works for them.
I think Mackenzie has got unfinished business. He left not when they were shit. He left because of that whole hoorah with one of the ladies there. I wouldn't mind having him back.
Yeah,
but he's also been out of rugby for ages.
Yeah, I would
it's go. Like a Heineken move.
I would phone Dan McKellar and phone Leicester and just get him out of his contract somehow. And
it's a great shot, eh?
And get Stephen Long, get the Brumby set up basically. That will give you at least a fighting chance with these games, with the next 4 years. Kooks?
You know what I'll do? Number one, I'll fire the person that thought that hiring Eddie Jones was the right time to do and just basically messed up Dave Rennie's 3-year plan. That person who made that call, even if they made it around the water cooler and planted the seed, he has to go. That person must go. And then number two, I'll get an aeroplane, I'll go back to France, I'll go straight to La Rochelle, I sit Ronan O'Gara down, and I tell him this. In 4 years' time, we host the Rugby World Cup. In 2 years' time, we got the Lions Tour. You've got carte blanche for the next 2 years in terms of how we play, in terms of how our domestic team plays, in terms of how the Wallabies play. You're giving him a director of rugby / head coaching job and saying, we need to fix our rugby. We've seen what you've done at La Rochelle. We've seen the work and the basically the learnings you got from Crusaders. So I'm going on a guard and say, but you got a blank canvas. Because I do think the Wallabies, there are youngsters there that can build something. They really did show glimpses of what there could be. And I always felt, even under Dave Rennie, it was not a 2023 job, it was a 2027 job.
Yeah.
But obviously, with the likes of Cooper and Foley. But I think the Wallabies, for them, the most important decision now is getting a great coach in. They don't need, I think Dave McKellar is great. They need someone like Dave McKellar, Ronan O'Gara, someone who's built something. Someone who's built something and sort of learned. They don't need a old-timer who's just coming in there, like a John Mitchell, for example, to just come, like, oh, John, is your experience, or even someone like a Jamie Joseph, who's seen what he's done with Japan. But I do, for me, like Ronan O'Gara, I'm sitting him down and telling him, but this, because I do think that Wallaby job it's a very interesting job in terms of with the World Cup there in 4 years and the British and Irish Lions job, because even the Lions job, you don't have that much to lose because of the mess that you're in. But that can be a great sort of start. I'm like, okay, I've got 2 years. Let me see what I can get into with the Lions tour. Then learnings from there. If we lose 3-0, okay, where did we go wrong? Okay, took those learnings, go to the next World Cup at home. So if that's what I would do if I was Australia, I'm sitting Ronan O'Gara down, I'm giving a blank canvas on our entire rugby program and saying, but what do we have to do to get you from France to Australia and take over our rugby program?
Yes, that's a great shout, Ronan O'Gara. Yo, Kooks, didn't even think of that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, the question is, can they afford them if, Australia's apparently taking out like more loans and to fund their rugby the next few years. They said no to private equity funding for the next few years. Like, yeah, it's Australia. I think if they want to make 2027 work, they need to throw money at the problem and throw money at the right people, like Kooks has suggested. But I don't even know if they even have that. Like, Shaun, if the whole rumor about Nawaqanita Wase is also true, like, you throw money at that man to try and make him stay. Like, I wonder if Australia even has the resources to try and fix those problems.
Yo, he must stay. Like, the only guy of that a handful, the only backline player of that World Cup that dominated, that you could literally say he was the only backline player that really, really, really put his hand up. And if he's going to go, this could be a great bluff move on his part. Start the rumors, renegotiate your contract, and voila.
Parking space next to the
Wallabies. But tell us, Shaun, the Wallabies need a good 2024. Like, not just like their rugby depends on it in Australia. It's exactly that. It depends on them showing something in 2024. Like what Eddie Jones has done needs to be put in a podcast. It needs to be a documentary on how you take a union 55 steps backwards. Oh, like the whole country's rugby fast is backwards. It's a mess. I mean, him, Eddie Jones, and all those executives, they actually need to be sued. That's what they need to be sued by World Rugby and Bill Beaumont as to how can you mess up an entire country's rugby? How? And like now we give one of your best players trying to go join RRL. If he leaves, how many players are going to follow? They'll be like, why should I come play Super Rugby? So whatever the Wallabies is, yes, they say might not have money. Go get the equity fund. Ask Drew Mitchell for maybe 1 million rand for this last contract to make you find ways to buy out Ronan O'Gara, because they might not have any rugby in their country, because it's the rugby in Australia is already in a mess. And now it's Eddie Jones. And then they were like 2 feet underground. Now they're 4 feet underground. If they have a good year next year, they could be 6 feet done. Then I don't know what's going to happen. So they need a good 2024. Like, just show something. Just like win 65, 70%, beat the All Blacks. Maybe
don't beat us.
Beat the Springboks for a game.
No, you shut your mouth.
John, we can't play rugby in Australia. I don't know, for some reason, we just can't. So like, we play them twice next year away from home. There's a good chance we lose one of those. It's just in our contract. It's in our DNA. We play shit against Wales.
And Pollard will look like someone that hasn't played rugby before as well.
I've accepted those in my life. Those are losses in my life that I've accepted. I don't even get angry about them anymore. So I just think for Australia, oh man, guys, Joe, what he did actually, he's like, you know, Netflix, you got those true crime special, like true crime documentaries. That's what he's need to put on there, because it's a crime what he did to Australian rugby.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about the Wallabies is I think those people that said they need their own Super Rugby competition are actually right. I think they need to play less with New Zealand or against New Zealand. I mean, that's probably not good for rugby in that region, but they need to just get some momentum going. And I think the only way to do it is to have their own competition, celebrate the Brumbies and the Reds or whoever wins there. For that to feel good, avoid playing New Zealand, like you avoid like someone's cause if you owe them money. Never play them like as far as possible and try to like spring a surprise on them like in a few years' time. Like, I think it almost has to be that they just have to play teams that they can beat at least for the next year or so they can just build some momentum. I mean, luckily, I guess for them, their 2024 July series against Wales, so that's not the toughest series in the world. Wales aren't the best travelers. I mean, they did almost beat the Springboks now in 2022. But yeah, like it's the situation just becomes so it's mired in so much incompetence and like just there's so many questions and dead ends and when you're trying to figure out how to get Australian rugby going again. And they just need to get wins. And even if it's pity wins, even if it's against Papua New Guinea, who cares? Like, just get wins into the system now.
Remember when Brumbies and the Reds, you would literally say the games of the year. Like, if you could rank rugby games of the year, Brumbies and the Reds would put out absolute crackers. But games of the whole Super Rugby season, and now it's just a mess. Like, it's a travesty what happened to Australia last year. As much as I don't like Australians, but like what Eddie Jones did is I can't believe it. Like, it actually blows my mind now that I've stepped away. But again, this is what happens when you play rugby on a Thursday.
I was waiting for it.
This is what happens. Bad things happen to good people when they do bad things. And it happened to Australia. Play a test on a Thursday. Now you might have rugby in your country again. So for them, they better next year play every single game at night, 12 o'clock our kickoff time in the afternoon. Don't do any funny business. No test matches at 4 in the morning. Betters Dog Cup in the afternoon. No one gives a shit about afternoon games anymore. Do the right thing. Say thank you to the rugby gods. Apologize. And maybe your rugby will get back to normal. See, this thing of trying to be fancy and playing on a Thursday, playing matches in cricket stadiums because John Eales once played a match there in 1964. It doesn't matter. Just go back to the basics. Then your rugby, they won 2 World Cups doing the basics. Now look at them. Now they're literally about to, if there's a relegation system in rugby, we talk about them getting relegated next year. We'll start playing there with Tonga and those guys. I think Australia was going to tier 2 for 1 year just to find themselves. Just tier 2 rugby just to find themselves for a bit. Play with Japan. Remember Japan like Portugal, play against like England A, play against Ireland A, just to figure things out if they can't find a coach. While they're just trialing guys, like Michaela can coach 1 game, O'Gara 1 game, Roy McKenzie 1 game, just while they figure things out.
Okay, guys, I think we have to end it there. Unfortunately, we will do a bit of a catch up on the URC, I think, in another podcast, and just try to figure out what's going on there. I guess the good news is if you're from Pretoria, the Bulls are at top. The bad news is if you're from Durban, the Sharks are at the bottom. So at least there's some balance in South African rugby right now, holding 1st and 16th position. But yeah, that was... I mean, that works for us. I think the Stormers are 8th as well. So
this is why I say Thalla's an asshole, because he knows it's because the Bulls fan. It's good thing in this pod here, because you're an asshole for that.
Yeah, and shout out to the Bulls for discovering the next big thing in Cameron Hanekom as well. I mean, I guess Wales will probably try to contact him because apparently he has some Welsh heritage. But yeah, we'll talk and get through all of that sometime, maybe the next week or so. But yeah, let's end it there. Thank you so much for listening to the Rugby Bits podcast. Please follow us on our social media channels and follow us and follow our content as well, as we update you on what's happening in the rugby world. And please also just follow us on every podcast platform, on Apple, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc., on Podbean as well, and like and share this podcast with the rest of the rugby world as well. We'll be trying to do a few things over this next few months, maybe a few interviews or whatever the case is. But yeah, we'll try to spice up the content as we go to the end of the year. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.